Southern California. We're just talking about the weather and how wonderful and cool it is down there. And she's a best-selling author, professional speaker, host of the Power of Connection in Biz Show, and principal of the leadership development and coaching and consulting firm she has called the Kimberly Connection Company. She's passionate about helping leaders at all levels become conscious and connected leaders to achieve success in our virtual world. So it's a very hot topic, Kimberly. Welcome. And I love to hear what you have to say about how we can be better at the virtual world that we all are in at this moment.
Well, thank you so much, Mari-Lyn. It's a joy to be here, not only with you, but I know you've had such a great lineup of speakers, and I'm so proud to be a part of the Kindness Conference. And just obviously, we need more kindness in the world now more than ever. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
And
I'm going to make it speaker.
And can you see? Let's see.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Excellent. Wonderful. So we ready to get started?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wonderful. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Again, thank you, Mari-Lyn, and thank you again for being the opportunity to be able to be here speaking with a lovely group of expert panelists on the topic of kindness. So my topic is going to be about a new culture of kindness at work. So really, what is kindness? Okay, it's really not niceness. Kindness cannot be synonymous with niceness, because niceness means you've got a underlying intention or expectation when you're doing that act of supposed niceness, versus the art of kindness is more generous, it's considerate, it has no expectation of anything back, and it's really just a quality of state of mind and of being. And when we introduce it not only in our personal life, but also in our professional life, it can be a very powerful, very minimally cost, and it's really an underrated agent of human change. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. What we're going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about a study of cultures, and you'll see how that brings into the topic of kindness at work, why kindness works at work, and kindness culture really begins with the leadership. So we begin with kindness leadership. And then what are the steps to introducing kindness at work? A study of cultures. I don't know if anybody of you can guess the difference between these two pictures. Yes. So
one's talkative and the other one isn't.
What?
One's talkative and the other one isn't.
Right, exactly. Yes. Actually, one is a chimpanzee and one is bonobos. Okay. And interesting enough, they're both they're 98.7% similar to us in DNA. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yet there's a very different culture, and scientists will, in the past, I think we're related highest to chimpanzee, but then when you start looking at some of the more female authors and female scientists, they're also introducing the bonobos, and you'll understand that here in a second. Why is this important? So let's look at the culture. In a chimpanzee, it tends to be single dominance, in this case, particularly male, and this is not a male female feminist argument by any means, but just to understand some nuances, right? Mm-hmm. Tends to be very hierarchical, one person at the top, one person in control, very aggressive environment, because if he feels threatened, or the individual or chimpanzee at the top feels threatened, they're going to be aggressive. They're extremely competitive, and even to the point of being deadly, that they would actually go and kill you or kill your young or kill anything that they feel threatened. And when you come into the fold as a new chimpanzee, it's assumed that you're not there for good reason. It's assumed that, we've got to watch you. You're here to take my role away. And again, that aggression comes out. So what kind of environment does that create for the other chimpanzees? If you think about it, wouldn't you feel a little uncertainty all the time because you don't know how they're interpreting your behavior? And oh my gosh, I better not do something that's upsetting them or challenging them, because I might not be here tomorrow. So it's very anxiety provoking and very uncertain, and it keeps people on their toes, or chimpanzees on their toes, literally, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it creates this mistrusting environment just underlying it all. That's the chimpanzee. Now, on the flip side, again, both of these are very similar to us in DNA by 98.7%. The bonobo, really across the Congo River in Africa, you'll find the bonobo culture. Tend to be female dominance as a group. More of a collaborative community versus just one person at the top and hierarchical. Again, more collaborative. They really look at nurturing and almost to the point of love and kindness in their environment. They assume when a new bonobo comes into the fold that they're kind, that they're going to be nurturing, that they're going to be a part of the group. So they assume that and they behave accordingly. So if somebody comes in that appears to be threatening, instead of being aggressive, killing them, they try to embrace them as a group of and nurture them to being kind and to being part of the group and collaborative. So if you can imagine, all this cooperation, all this sharing builds a great deal amount of trust. And, they don't have the anxiety that might be prevalent in a chimpanzee environment, that competitive angst, that watch your back, that, oh my gosh, someone, I got to do better than they do, or, oh my gosh, he's trying to get my position, or she's trying to get my position, a much different mentality and a much more peaceful mentality and a much more thriving mentality and culture. So why is this important? I like to think as you look through the evolution and probably the last decade of where we've been going as a work culture, I feel like the workplace culture is being involved into more of this divine feminine. Again, not feminist, but divine feminine, meaning pulling more of the energies of a feminine nature, kindness, emotional intelligence, collaboration, coaching, mentoring, the things versus just, I'm gonna get to the top and I'm gonna knock everybody out of the way in order to do so. Sell it at all costs, right? So it's just a different feel, and I'm feeling this trend and this move and evolution to this divine feminine, like the bonobo culture, right? Mm-hmm. Culture of community, high emotional quotient, again, embracing kindness, and so that's why this kindness is going to work, and that's why the more we become more knowledgeable on our emotions, conscious of our own notions and mindset as a leader and how we interact with other people, this kindness can work. So why does it work if you look at it from a physical and a mental standpoint? Because I always like the neuroscience behind everything. If you think about, if you have ever been in a position where you weren't happy, you didn't like your boss, or there were a couple of people that you worked with that were just really aggressive, didn't feel like they were really trustworthy. What tends to happen is your stress level, your cortisol runs extremely high, which then adds to weight gain, which then drops your immune system. So you're more prone to illness. You start, because you're so frustrated and stressed and don't really have anywhere to go, you start isolating. And of course, that leads into lack of sleep. Interesting enough, unfortunately, when you're not happy at work, it severely affects your children. They've actually seen higher incidence of bullying from parents who are not happy at work. It's a very interesting psychological ramification. But if you think about it, if you're not bringing your happy self to work and you're not bringing a happy self home, it only extends there, right? And obviously it affects your relationship with your significant other, right? Not good. So, and even statistically, they'll show toxic work environments do create higher mortality, basically because all that stress level, high blood pressure, more heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. So they found that kindness at work really outweighs benefits. A Gallup poll showed that even when a workplace offered benefits such as flex time, work from home opportunities, coffee machines, gyms, it really proved that kindness at work outweighs. They put more importance on being engaged, feeling well-being with others, feel like they belong, feel like they can contribute, feel like they're being valued. Much more significant. These are nice to have, but without that other piece, the kindness at work, if you will, that I like working in this culture. I like my boss. I feel like I can work with my peers. That's the difference. What are the physiological effects of kindness? How does it affect your mind? How does it affect you when you're not happy, right? Kindness actually positively changes your brain function. It produces a positive brain chemistry. And I always like to talk about like the neuro and the feeds in your brain from a chemical perspective. So we talked a little bit before about a negative environment, an angst environment, a competitive environment will produce cortisol, which produces stress. But the opposite of that is when you actually come from a level of kindness and you're giving and investing in others, first of all, it builds oxytocin for you, but it builds serotonin and dopamine for the people that are receiving it. So it's like the feel-good drug. So, and the interesting cool thing is when you are receiving the oxytocin from giving to others and others are receiving this or creating the serotonin and dopamine from your good effort, it blocks the cortisol. They can't exist in the same being, you're the same state. So it's just a natural course that you're going to decrease or eliminate the cortisol if you're elevating the serotonin or the dopamine or the oxytocin. So good reasons to do kind things at work, right? It helps you too, not just the other person. And that whole oxytocin builder builds the trust that is so important to really bond with other people and really the connection, what I call to better business, because when we're happy at work, everything else seems to fall into play. It's those soft skills that we use in engaging others, listening to others, being present with others, saying thank you. Gosh, I really appreciate the job that you did yesterday. Gosh, you spent an extra 4 minutes on the phone with that customer just to kind of make sure they're okay with their purchase because they had a little angst. Thanks for doing that, Joe. So it's those little things on a daily basis that build the serotonin for others, build the oxytocin for you, and build the trust. Those endorphins are really important. And a lot of this stuff comes from the Mayo Clinic, just if you need a reference to. Okay. So as we, kind of relate, we talked about how it has a negative effect. The positive effects we just talked about are on the mindset. But what about the body? I kind of already touched on this. It's going to impact your cortisol levels. Your cortisol levels will go down, which reduces all that immune system effect, that extra stress that causes you to eat more, you're more in balance, you're sleeping well. Just a wonderful solution for if you're not sleeping well, having weight gain. It's just about balance. It's about mindset. It's about being kind. Okay, like we talked about, at the end of the day, the kindness culture, because I'm a leadership and engagement consultant and coach, and I focus on leaders because I feel like if I can help leaders practice this, then they're introducing it to their people and their teams who then learn to practice it. So it's a greater way to go 1 times 2 times 2 times 4 times 4 times, so bigger outreach versus just one-on-one. But by impacting leaders, I can impact change at a greater level. Because leaders too, at the end of the day, are really the ones who define that corporate culture. So, kindness culture stems from kindness leadership. Simon Sinek says, corporate culture matters. How management chooses to treat its people impacts everything for better or for worse. Again, leadership matters. So what I preach and what I coach on and what I consult on and what I really help leaders become are connected, conscious, and kind leadership. That's in. Not old hierarchical leadership where it's top down, competitive, only me at the top. Everybody else is a threat to me. Nobody is here to help me. It's me, 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 me. So, but no, it's the connected, conscious, and kind leadership that is in. So now I'm going to get into how do you become that? What are the 5 attributes of a conscious, connected, and kind leader? First one is having a leader be a coach. Having a leader show he or she cares, showing empathy. Being conscious of what you're doing and how people react to you. Being collaborative and being kind. So I'm going to get into each one of these at a deeper level. And think about it too. It's kind of like the bonobo culture, right? A different mentality. Being a coach as a leader. There's many different steps that I coach my leaders on to be coaches. This one is a significant one that you can take away with. If you think about feedback, I don't know if any of you had a parent when you were growing up when, maybe you were making chocolate chip cookies, or maybe you were trying to fix your bike. And then the parent came in and said, no, you're doing it wrong, and came in and took over, right? How does that make you feel? It makes you feel kind of yucky, right? And offended and distant. And so it's kind of alienating. And so what we want to do, and it puts you on the defensive. So what we really want to do if we're coaching others is ask them, why do you think the chocolate chip cookies didn't turn out as well? Why do you think your wheel fell apart? Why, what was the process that you used in order to make this? It's more about asking them, what do they think they did right? What do they think they did wrong? What went well? What do they think they can improve upon? So it's having them observe themselves, creating self-awareness, which is very important, especially if you're developing leaders, but in any relationship, whether it's leadership or not. So, caring as a leader, empathy. I love this picture because it's got shoes and just a variety of shoes, right? But it's a great way to share that empathy is really about being able to put yourself in other people's shoes and have empathy for what they are feeling. So you almost have to dig down and know yourself. So if you've got a new hire that seems to be really frustrated with the training and just comes to you almost in tears and just says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this happen. I'm having a hard time learning the material. And you share with them, you know what, Joe, I've been in your position. I know how frustrating that is. You know what, but I think you have high expectations on yourself. I think if you just follow the process and know that you can come back and learn the materials, you don't have to get it all learned in 1 week. We've all been there. And I know you want to really succeed and, get up to speed rather quickly. You will do that. We all have that sense of frustration when we start a new job because we want to know everything. And it's not possible in just a week. It takes time and it takes experience. But being able to communicate to that person, hey, I've been in your shoes. I know what that feels like. Helps them, one, build trust, two, to feel more open to communicate with you with other issues in the problem and feel like that you as a leader, you've got their back. And it builds that serotonin and dopamine we talked about. Consciousness as a leader. A lot of times I think as leaders, one, feel like we have to know all the answers, which isn't possible in today's informational environment. So that's number one. The number two thing is we're used to doing a lot of things, and the doing got us to be a leader, right? But once you become a leader, your energy and how you show up to your career and what you're supposed to be doing is a lot different. It's not about doing, it's about being. Your major role as a leader is to be relationship focused, to make sure your people trust you, want to follow you, believe in you, feel like you have their back, and they can have open dialogue with you. It's got to be relation focused. And so it begins with that trust factor and that kindness and that serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin rush happens when you actually are present with somebody, whether it's with a team or more importantly, if you're one-on-one. If you are looking into somebody's eyes, if you're not also on your computer or on your phone or turn your phone off, not only flip it down, but turn it off. But being present and listen is a huge, huge, huge thing to build trust with people. If you think about it, when you were a baby, your first validation was from your parent looking into your eye and that connection. And that's the same thing you're trying to do when you're as a leader with your employees. Convey that I value you. I value as an employee. I think you have great capabilities. So be present and listen. Those are the BEEs of listening. Be present, eye contact, and the other E is engaging. So for instance, Mari-Lyn might be telling me about her upcoming celebration this weekend, and I might say, well, gosh, it sounds like you're really, really excited about that. I'm so happy that you're going to use the theme of the Roaring 20s for your party. It's basically reiterating what they said to you, helping them understand that you heard what they said. And the fourth piece is collaboration as a leader. Again, going back to the bonobo culture, it's about collaboration, not competitiveness, right? And because we can't, as leaders, have all the answers, it's very important that we take advantage of the the brains and the talent and the skills of your team. So it's important not to dictate necessarily what's to do. You can maybe dictate the agenda, but then you ask, is there anything else we want to discuss today? You might dictate that the timeline has to be by the end of the month, but the process might be collaboratively designed as far as what you work on first and how long you spend on it. It's a teamwork thing. And that again brings the trust, brings connection, and brings the engagement. A simple way to do that as a leader is have various parts of your team meetings be delegated. Maybe you have someone do the competitive update of what's going on in the industry, or you have somebody address the agenda, or you have somebody talk about some new insight they read or heard on the news, or a new product that's going to be launched. So it's important to delegate and bring into your team their own personalities, their own knowledge base, and to collaborate. Oops, I already got through the BEEs of listening again are be present, that eye contact that's so important, and being engaged. So the fifth part is kindness as a leader. Again, we talked about this in the beginning. Kindness is not niceness. Niceness is being manipulative, have an end goal in mind, and you're wanting something for your effort. Versus kindness is a state of being, and that you just want to give and invest in the other person because that you know that that's going to help them be a better person, but also be better at their job and the career. And it also builds the trust that you're looking for. If anybody has never read this book, I highly recommend it. It's called The 4 Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. And it just talks about 4 things that we should start our day with in order to be at the best frame of mind. And I like it because for people who aren't necessarily into spiritual stuff, it's a great quick read. So, and it's something you can introduce to your team and when you're having one-on-one. So kind of one point I want to point out from this is they talk about that one of the 4 agreements is be impeccable with your word, meaning you don't talk about other people behind their back. And when you have something to say to people, kind of like what your mother told you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Kind of the same thing. When you're interacting with others, when you're interacting with your team, try to find something positive to say to them. Studies show that if you affirm your people, either by saying just a simple, thank you for the effort. Thank you for submitting that proposal on time. Thank you for submitting your expense report on time. They'll naturally want to raise their bar to that level. They're naturally going to want to perform better. So, and then be impeccable with your word is also about be kind. Don't talk about other people behind your back. It just is negative energy. I think too, just for you and the presence of mind as a leader is just being grateful for you to be able to impact these individuals on a positive level and be grateful for your leadership skills. We all could have and need a lot to be able to respect each other. And I really like my favorite 4th one is forgive. I think especially in this time when things are extremely challenging, we all, even as leaders, have this gamut of emotion going up and down, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. We have to forgive others for maybe not being 100% there or getting it totally right the first time. But we also have to forgive ourselves for feeling the insecurities we do, or forgive, just some of the angst we feel. So I think when we kind of take the bar down a notch and allowing ourselves to feel a certain way, it only makes our job easier and makes us more vulnerable to our people and makes us more kind to our people. And it only builds the engagement. Any questions on that? So what's the impact as kindness as a leader? And I'm kind of go back, this is reiterating, but I feel like it's really important. Again, kindness, connectedness, listening, being empathetic, supporting them by saying, gosh, what a great job you did. Really would like you to lead this meeting next time. You're building trust with these people. You're building good, positive energy and endorphins with the serotonin and the oxytocin for yourself. It's just much more effective way to lead. Kind of going back to, again, the chimpanzee culture or the bonobo culture. Which one would you want to be a part of? Which one would you want to be leading? Not from a male or female perspective, but just from an energy, way to approach the business, way to approach people. You're going to have very stronger commitment and loyalty because it's more fun to be with somebody who's kind than it is to be kind of following behind somebody who's just always mean, right? And by you mirroring the inspiration of kindness, guess what? The exact goal that we talked about in the beginning, you get others mirroring that inspiration of kindness. So how do we actually, on some effort, other than just as a leader, introduce kindness into the workplace? Collaboratively at your next team meeting, ask them if there's some volunteer project or some charity event that as a team, you guys can attend and support. Obviously during the holidays, you've got all the soup kitchens. Maybe there's something you can do for the homeless, and it could be right in your backyard. So just helping clean up trash, but there's always an opportunity to give. And by giving, that's extending kindness. And so find some event on a regular basis, minimal once a year, that your team can do for a charity event and volunteer. Again, kindness comes from giving. Kindness comes from collaboration. Kindness comes from investment. When you have new hires to your organization, assign somebody who's more experienced. Doesn't matter that they're maybe 10, 15 years apart in age. That's even better because it pulls that gap together. Get them a mentor because it gives them a safe place to talk to other than yourself, to talk about what's going on, and provides an empathy that they need in order to be happy at work. Another idea that some people have adopted when I'm working with some clients is, and we always had the secret Santa thing. Why not have a secret kindness agent? And it can be within your organization or within your team, where once a month, that secret kindness agent would do something for that individual. So everybody has a secret kindness agent, and you won't know who that agent is till the end of the year. But it could be, Mari-Lyn, I know you like flowers, so I always send you flowers once a month, or I send you a thank you card with flowers on it, or I send you a candle, whatever it is, or a baseball cap with your favorite team because they just won the World Series. So whatever it is, but it doesn't have to be expensive, but it's little touch points of human connection and kindness that just build a better workplace. And in closing, I will say, and this is what I promote when I work with companies and leaders, it's the soft stuff that makes the hard stuff work. So my kind gift to you guys as being guests here at the